So, Steven.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. How are you? My name is Steven. Currently, I am the director at the Alum Rock Women and Children's Center in San Jose and the Family Center. I don't know if many of you have been to the center, like you said, to come and volunteer for us and teach the students some mathematical skills and stuff for their GED. And I want to thank you guys for that. It's awesome. The students are always blessed with that. For those of you, I don't know if many of you know much about Teen Challenge, but Teen Challenge is basically it's a 12 to 18 month program. It helps men, women, and teens that suffer with life-controlling issues such as drug addictions, domestic violence, any other type of addictions that they have. They could come in and they get help for whatever they're struggling with. Teen Challenge was started back in 1958 by a pastor named David Wilkerson. He had a heart for the teenagers. Back then, there was a murder case that was going on in New York with some gang members. They had killed a little boy. There was about 4 of them, and he felt that he should go and try to talk to the judge and ask them if he could help them in a way. You know, they kicked him out of the courtroom, being that Teen Challenge is based on is a faith-based program. So he went in there and he told them that faith is what they needed. They didn't need incarceration. They needed salvation. But so he got kicked out of the courtroom. After that, he went back to New York and he saw that on the streets of New York there was a bunch of teenagers that were drug addicted. They were on heroin, and there was just a big epidemic. He got moved in his heart, and he wanted to help the teens out. So he opened up a house where the teens could come and they could get help. He would go out into the streets and he would go into the ghettos and into where all the drug addicts were, and he would go and he would talk life to them, and he would bring them and they would receive healing, and they went on to be able to live without a drug addiction. So from 1958 to now, Teen Challenge has like over 200 centers in the United States, and there's over thousands worldwide. There's some in all over the country, and then there's a global world challenge also. So what we do in San Jose, we have the Center for the Women and Children and the Family Center. The Family Center is a unique center because it's the only center that will allow you to come in with your husband and your wife and your kids. I myself am a graduate from that center. I went into the center back in 2012. I graduated in 2014. The reason I came to Teen Challenge was because I had a really bad problem with alcohol. Alcohol was a big thing in my family. I started drinking at the age of 13. I was able to just drink freely with my father by the time I was 15. It wasn't a big deal. My dad told me one day that he would rather have me drink a beer than smoke marijuana. So, but I did experiment with marijuana. I smoked marijuana for all my teenager years. I did a little bit of harder drugs, cocaine, and tried some other drugs that were just out on the streets that were out there at that time, some hallucinants. But alcohol was the one that really grabbed a hold of me. So by the time I was a senior in high school, I was drinking probably close to every day. I dropped out of high school, my second semester of high school. I didn't want to go to summer school, so I dropped out and I didn't even finish my education. After that, I had moved over to a place in El Paso, Texas, and I got my GED, but I continued in just my partying and drinking. I did try to do a college, like I started a community college for a while, and I just never took to the education part about it, so I just started working and basically I was just working just so I could get money so I could go out to the bars and just have a good time with my friends. Eventually, that led to me just going deeper into my addiction. By that time, I stayed out of my parents' house they left when I was 18. I stayed out of my parents' house for about 4 years. I went back home. Home for me is New Mexico. So I went back home, and I didn't really have no plans in what I wanted to do as education-wise or career-wise or anything. So I just started working. I met my wife, Sophia. Many of you maybe have met Sophia. She helps me direct the program. She's program director at the Women and Children Center. When I met Sophia, I was young, and she was young, and we had a relationship, and through the relationship, I had a daughter. My daughter, Melody, she's my older, she's 15 now. We landed up getting married. After we got married, Sophia had stopped partying and she had stopped doing the drugs she was doing, but I continued. So within, I don't know, a six-year frame of our first year in marriage, we had Melody, and then I had 2 more children, Marco and Maya. My addiction got really bad. About 2011, 2012, I became a complete drunk. I couldn't get out of bed unless I drank some alcohol. I couldn't function. My body became chemically dependent on it. I couldn't provide for my family. I could not go to work. The only thing that was on my mind was how am I going to get my next drink? So in desperation, my marriage was falling apart. I was about to lose my kids. I was about to lose my wife. I had tried some other programs, 30-day programs. I had tried, Alcoholics Anonymous, and just nothing seemed to work for me. I just kept on falling back to the same thing that I was doing. So, early 2012, I get arrested for domestic violence. I got very angry one night in my apartment, and I made a mess of the apartment. And so I had gotten arrested for that, and that was the icebreaker for me and Sophia. We found the Asbury Family Center. They said that they would take me and her, and eventually we could bring our kids. So I landed up selling everything I had, and I came to California, and I started my journey with Teen Challenge. While being in Teen Challenge, it taught me structure. It taught me how to persevere through some hard times, through some difficult times. Teen Challenge taught me how to have a good work ethic. Even though I thought I had a good work ethic, but it taught me how to have a good work ethic even though I was having pressures of just natural things in my life. I was completely blessed in the program. We were just talking about it on the way over here. I got to do a mission trip while I was in the program. I got to go to the Philippines and to minister to the little kids, and got my children back, and I completed the program. I graduated the program. After I graduated the program, we went back home, and that was in 2014. And last year, the leaders of Teen Challenge called me, and they asked me if I wanted to come back and work for them. So we packed up all our stuff again, and we came back to San Jose, and that's where we're at now. So, if it weren't for a program like Teen Challenge that would bring me, allow me and my wife to come in together and get the healing that we needed together, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. A lot of programs do allow you to come in just alone, just as the male and just as the female, but I think being able to come in as the whole family unit, it's harder, but it was a bigger blessing for my account because my wife got the healing she needed. I was able to heal from just my scars, and my kids got to see the process of me. They didn't only just see the addiction part, but they also saw me in the process of getting sober, and now they get to see me live out the process of staying sober. So that's what Teen Challenge did for me, and it's been a complete blessing. And so when people want to come in and volunteer their time for us, I don't take that very lightly. I think that is very, every time I would see volunteers come in, I always thought, how can people, they don't even know us and they just want to give of themselves. And I think it's, for me, it speaks volumes that people would want to not even know who I am, but still want to give something back to the community and give something to me without even knowing who I am, right? And that's taught me to do the same also, to reach out to the community and be able to help others as we go. But so that's my testimony, that's my story, that's how I came to Teen Challenge and just the things that Teen Challenge has done for me. So I have two ladies here with us today. I'm going to let them give their story, Alexis and Lizzie. So I'll let Lizzie go first. Lizzie's been in the program, about 6 months now?
6 months.
She's been in the program about 6 months. She's 19 years old, so she's one of the younger ones that we have. And she didn't come in. I came into the program when I was 32. I was telling her the other day, man, I wish I would have came into the program when I was 19. I would have been my world would be a whole different, right? But everything happens for a reason. So I'm just gonna let her talk to you guys about what Teen Challenge has been doing for her and what she's been through. Okay.
Hello, how are you? Well, my name's Elizabeth. I'm 19 years old. I was born in San Jose. That's where my family's from. I was an only child. Had some relatives and a half sister that were separate from the family, but otherwise it was just me and my parents. My life started out great in the beginning. My parents were married. We lived in a nice house in a quiet neighborhood around the south side area of San Jose. It was beautiful. I was happy. I went to a great school, a science magnet elementary school. I had everything I really could have asked for, and I didn't expect anything better. You know, that was my happy place. I loved my life when I was younger, and as I started getting older, started reaching around 6, 7, 8 years old, my parents started fighting a lot. My mom had started entering into a mental breakdown that I didn't learn about until I got older. But my parents, they started fighting. There was a lot of questions that I had. I didn't understand why my mom would do the things she would do. She would lash out on us, me and my father. She would go into fits of rage. There was always, them fighting. My dad trying to protect me from it, didn't want me to see it, hiding me in my room, didn't want me to experience what was happening, but I still saw it and I still felt the effects of it. And then it came about when I was 9 years old that my parents told me they were going to get a divorce, and that ruined everything for me. I really thought my life was falling apart, and it seemed like my happy world had now been destroyed. So my parents split up, and I bounced between their houses as they tried to decide who was going to play parent. Neither of them wanted to. They were very spiteful towards each other. There was a lot of hurt and anger that they both had, and I was stuck in between it, and I was their punching bag. My dad was very upset with me because I reminded him of my mom, and my mom was very upset with me because I reminded him of her and my dad. And so I took a lot of the beatings for it, and both my relationship with my mom and my dad separately had fallen apart as well. So not only did their marriage fall apart, but I lost my heroes. And that was hard for me. So I decided to start doing my own thing. I was like, all right, well, I don't have a family anymore. I don't really have parents, so I'm going to go and try and play adult. So I got into middle school, and that's when I decided I was going to start acting like I was a grown-up. So I started doing grown-up things, going and stealing, cutting class in 7th grade. Didn't even know why I would leave class. I was too young to know. Just knew I wanted to leave. And I started experimenting with marijuana, and a year after that, probably in my 8th grade year, right before I was done in middle school, is when I tried alcohol. I tried drinking. But I had was a problem child. I was very problematic in class. I did not want to focus. I did not want to sit there. I didn't want to listen, and I never really grasped a hold of the work part of class. It never sunk in, and I had actually learned that I had a learning disability. I was dyslexic, so I didn't want to sit there, and I also had ADHD on top of it. So I didn't want to sit in class because it didn't make sense to me. The numbers got mixed up. The writing was taking too long, and I couldn't sit and focus for long enough without wanting to make somebody laugh or make myself leave. I couldn't sit still and didn't plan on trying anytime soon. So I let that spiral. I barely made it out into high school, and then high school came, and that's when everybody started doing the things I was doing. So everybody was kind of, there was the bad kids and the good kids, and there was more bad than good. And I started mixing myself into a crowd of people that did what I did, and we were the bad kids. We were the people that were cutting class together. I found people that were leaving at the same times as me, so I went and hung out with them. Those are the people that were smoking weed too, so I was gonna hang out with them more often as well. And then they introduced me to the party life, and I loved partying. I loved going and starting really, you know, I didn't hate the taste of alcohol anymore. I learned to like it. And just started getting, you know, it was just on the weekends, go party, you know. Parents didn't know about it. They thought I was spending the night at a friend's house or, you know, whatever I wanted to tell them. And they believed me, and I got myself into a lot of trouble, but never let it come out to the surface. And I just kept barely skating my way through high school, and just stuck with being, I stuck with marijuana. That was my drug of choice then. And right when I graduated high school, I barely made it out. I graduated by the hairs of my chin. I really barely made it. I think I graduated with a 1.8 grade point average. And with how badly I'd been doing through all my schooling, I had no plans of pursuing anything else. I thought that college would never accept me. I didn't even try to improve any of my grades, try and do extracurriculars. I didn't want to do anything. I just decided school wasn't for me. So when I graduated, the night I actually graduated high school, I went to a party at a friend's house, and that was the night I met my first boyfriend who introduced me to cocaine. And I spent the next 3 years in a tailspin, just chasing after the drug, chasing after different men that had it. I had gone through just about every friend and every pocket that I could grab some money from to fuel my addiction, and had put myself in dangerous situations. My family was throwing my parents at odds with each other because I was getting kicked out left and right. I'd go and get kicked out of my mom's house, go live with a friend, and convince my dad to let me back in, and do that over and over, bouncing between houses. And that was rough on them. They already had their issues as it was, and a problematic child was not what they needed, and it just fueled them to just become, evil towards each other, and it still came back on me. I would hear, their opinions of each other, and it just made me spiteful towards both of them. So I didn't seek their approval anymore. I didn't care about them. I really didn't think I loved them, and I really would just do anything I could to separate myself from the family because I wanted nothing to do with them. So I kept chasing after men, chasing after the drugs, chasing after the parties, because that's where my happiness lied. I thought by getting drunk and going and doing drugs or having the drugs that people wanted would get me that acceptance. So I just kept doing that, and that's how I lived. And eventually I decided, about a year and a half after I graduated high school, when everyone else was done partying and had already been enrolled in college, that I was the last one still standing. It wasn't fun anymore, and I was the only one practically dragging people by their arms to come party with me. And so I decided I needed to do something, so I enrolled myself in Job Corps, and that was a government paid trade school, and so they would teach you everything that you needed to know and put you in job placement at the end of it. So I went into the medical field. I wanted to become a medical assistant, and started it off by trying to get certified as a medical administrative assistant. So I would be handling the insurance claims, billing, scheduling for the doctors, and I thought that's where my calling was. That's where I always wanted to be. I loved fast pace, I loved, mindless thinking, but just the same routines, and I could do it quickly, and I can communicate quickly, and I can get things done, and that's where I thought I wanted to be. And I had been partnered with a therapist through Job Corps, and after I came in, they tested me. They did a drug test on me and saw the drugs I was on, so they partnered me with a drug counselor and then a therapist that was volunteering through Stanford. And then after about 4 months of being in Job Corps, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD and depression and anxiety from childhood trauma. So all those things that were going on back when I was a kid had started to resurface and were causing the problems that I was finding in myself. I'd had a couple of suicide attempts over the years, and the final one was what led me to come to Teen Challenge. I had attempted to kill myself by taking every drug I could get a hold of while on the campus of Job Corps, which is a government-paid facility, so I did end up getting the cops called when they kicked me off of the campus, and was charged with possession of methamphetamines. And I was heavily under the influence, and I had taken a bunch of pharmaceuticals, was just trying to get a hold of anything I could to end it, and I don't remember anything of it, but I've heard some pretty bad things about it. And I spent about a week and a half detoxing all the drugs out of my system on my friend's couch, and that's when I reached out to my dad and tried to reach out to my mother, but at that point she had given up on me, so she had blocked my number and told me just to never contact her again until I cleaned up my act. And I convinced my dad that I needed help, and when time started to stretch along, I said my final goodbyes. And that's when my dad contacted my mother and said that, you know, if you don't help her and you don't help both of us right now, the next time I see you is going to be at her funeral. So I don't know how happy you think I am right now, but you're not going to see me very happy then if we don't help her. And so my mom contacted some friends, got in contact with her church group, and called Teen Challenge and had talked to the intake coordinator who had been her friend from church for years prior, and had no clue that she was working with the same company. So it was kind of, there was a hand over the whole situation, because she had been put in a web of these people that would later become all the people that surround me today, way years in the past, and had no clue. And so she called Teen Challenge. They arranged everything outside of just me getting there. That was all I knew. My parents just told me, we're going to pick you up on Saturday, and we're going to get you some breakfast, and we're going to talk about what we need to do. So they picked me up, we went and ate, and they drove me to Teen Challenge, and that was Saturday, January 19th. And I have almost reached my 6-month mark. It is a 12 to 18 month long program, and that's also if you don't, there's an option to add on an internship or keep going through the program and follow it through and becoming a staff member, which I've looked into being a possibility. I do want to see this program through. I came in a lot more rigid and not very accepting, and was very, I fought it. I did not want to be here in the beginning, but I did it because my parents told me to. And about a month and a half after that was when I came to the realization of there's something greater than me that needs to be addressed, and there's something that I need to know more about, and that came out to be God. And I was introduced to him, and he changed my life. And I've done nothing but want to be here and put my mind to this program, whether it has stretched me and pulled me apart and stressed me out and made me angry and made me want to scream and fight. I won't leave. And that's the big difference that I've seen in myself, is that I'm not going to leave. And I said that the night that I really felt that change, and I haven't felt any different from it. I may have moments that I get upset, and somebody may rub me the wrong way, but I'm not going to leave because of it. And there's nothing that I've done more in my life than quit on everything that I did. Quit on everything. And this is the one thing I'm bound and determined I'm going to see through. And nobody can derail me from my progress and what I want to do and my goal at the end of this. And that's saying that I did this. And I know I'm going to stand there at the end of this, and I'm going to be able to look the directors in the face and say thank you. And I'm so ready to do this. And I've been taught so much through the program. I've never seen the endurance in myself. I was one to see a problem, see a roadblock, and walk the other direction, because it seemed too difficult to see why I needed to find a way around it. So it was just a quitting game at all times. I didn't want to stretch myself. I didn't want to fight for anything. I just wanted everything to be easy, and if it wasn't easy, then I'll find something better. And this has taught me to keep going. Whether it's even in my power anymore or not, I have seen myself push through situations that I thought I would have quit on a couple of months ago. I never would have thought that I would just keep pushing through everything. And I still sometimes am wondering who does it, because I don't think it's in me at all times. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know how I've made it to, in 6 days it's going to be my 6 months. I never thought I would make it this far into this program, and I'm still pushing through, and the problems that have been put before me are not enough to keep me from seeing the end of this. And that's the biggest thing I've seen in myself, because I've never wanted to push through anything as much as I do this. And I think it's because I really want to see my life change, and Teen Challenge has given me that opportunity to do so. I've seen the reunification of my family. My parents were able to sit down on my past with me just recently, about a week ago, and tell me that they wanted me to understand and make sure clearly that the fighting that was going on and the way that they would talk about each other and the feud that had been built for the last 10 years since their divorce was going to be done. And they were deeply hurt by the way that I had been affected and what had led me from their actions to be where I am, and what played a part in me destroying my own life. And they were able to say, you know, we need to come together as a family and you're never going to see that side of us again, and we're sorry. And that was eye-opening, because it was something I asked for, but I didn't know that was in my heart. I didn't know when I came into this program that I wanted to see me and my family sit down at a meal together and be happy and smile and not see them fight with each other, and you know, not say horrible things to each other, or just have it feel uncomfortable. And we can sit down, and I can sit down and eat a dinner with my mom and my dad and just have it be normal. And that's it. Like I said, I never knew I wanted that, and it's happening right in front of me. So the things that are being put before me, I'm never gonna, I can see everything that's coming, and the door is just never ending closing on the opportunities that are popping up, and the different ways that my life is being healed because of this program. So I'm deeply, just truly thankful for this program for helping me save my life. And I'll pass it over to Alexis.
Hi, my name is Alexis. I'm 21 years old. So coming into this world, I didn't come into very good circumstances. I was born a month early, a crack baby, and I was 3 pounds. My birth parents were very into the gang life and just didn't really seem to want anything to do with me. My dad was in a gang that was very into human trafficking and child trafficking, so I was sexually abused by the age of 18 months. I finally got into a Christian family that adopted me. The cops raided the house and found crack residue all over the table. I had a cigarette burn on my forehead and was just taking care of myself, and so they decided to take me and put me into a different family. The one I have right now, they adopted me. And so growing up, I didn't understand why I really didn't like my parents, even though that they were super loving. I just built that wall up inside of me that nobody was going to be able to love me, so I'm not even going to try to get close to people, especially my parents. I believed that my birth mom didn't love me, so my mom couldn't love me. That nobody could love me. I was unworthy, unloved, and just not accepted. So I had a lot of attachment issues growing up, which caused me to get placed on 5 different type of psych meds. I was an out of control child. I was angry at the world and didn't know why. I thought that everybody was against me, and especially people in authority wouldn't be able to take care of me. I didn't trust that they knew what was best for me, so I was very combative and resistant of people in authority. I ended up going into 4 different psychiatric hospitals because of my anger issues and my parents not knowing what to do. That's where they would up the medicine, and it would seem to work for a little bit, and then they would up the medicine again, and then it would just be a cycle, because I would get so used to taking them that the problems would come back even with the medication. So out of desperation, my parents sent me away to 2 different adolescent centers, and in order to finish high school, they saw that I was able to do the work, I was really smart, and that they were just afraid that I wouldn't finish high school because of my behavioral issues. So at boarding school, I just resisted my parents' love for me because I just felt like they wanted to get rid of me, that they didn't want anything to do with me, that's why they sent me away. It wasn't because they wanted to help, and so when I got finished with my senior year of high school, I came back home and my parents were like, okay, well, what are you going to do next, because you can't stay here. So I was like, okay, you know, they really don't want me here. They really don't want anything to do with me. So I really pushed them away, and I got into a missionary school and did that for 6 months. And then when that was finished, came back home, did another 3 months of a mission, and I was like, okay, I'm a different person now. But I really just covered everything up. I was just putting up a front and wanting them to keep me home because I wanted them to accept me. And so when I came back, my parents were like, okay, now you get your own place. You get to get your own place. And I'm like, okay, you know, like, it's going to be cool, you know, I can do this. I had a job, and I was going to school to be a dental technologist. And that was working for a little bit. However, at night, I would get super lonely, and I didn't understand why. Like, just this loneliness would come over me, and I'm like, okay, what is this? I have my parents are in my life, and it was just that pull inside of me that I wanted to feel. So I ended up getting into a relationship. We would smoke weed all the time. I didn't think it was a problem. We would drink sometimes, but I ended up not understanding why I couldn't still go hang out with friends and just have that relationship. He was super jealous and didn't want me to do anything, and so I felt trapped. I felt like that I couldn't do anything without him getting mad at me. I would wear makeup sometimes, and he would be like, why are you wearing makeup? Who are you wearing makeup for? And I was like, you know, I just want to wear makeup to feel pretty sometimes. And so it got to the point where we broke up, and he started using drugs. And that got me thinking that everybody, my birth mom, him, kept choosing drugs over me. So I ended up trying methamphetamine for the first time with one of my friends and didn't stop from there. I ended up getting into a domestic violence relationship to a 36-year-old man. He was way older than I was, and he basically controlled my life for about a year. We were sleeping outside sometimes, always chasing the drug, always in and out of jail because of drug charges, and I started to hate my life. I wanted nothing to do with him, but I couldn't get away. He made it impossible to get away. I would leave, and he would end up finding me and starting a fight with me, and so I just gave up. I gave into it. I would just let him beat me. I would just let it happen because I didn't know what else to do. So finally, I got arrested, and he got arrested at the same time, and I prayed to God that he wouldn't get out, but I would. And so I got out, and he stayed for another 2 months in jail. And so I was like, this is great, I'm gonna get sober. So I was sober, and I ended up relapsing because I tried to do it all by myself. I tried to not tell my parents about anything. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to tell them, oh, I'm getting triggered, I want to use, but I don't want to use. And so I ended up relapsing, which I ended up going back to the guy I was starting to date in the beginning. And we started using together, and it was all downhill from there. He wouldn't go to work, we would stay together all day. And then I wouldn't go to court for my drug charges, and so I got a warrant. And the cops came to the house and took me away on August 13th, and I found out that I was pregnant. And so right then I called my mom, and I told her that I wanted to change. I didn't tell her that I was pregnant yet because I knew she would be super mad. And so I was telling her, and then she worked, and then she was like, okay, we're going to get you into Teen Challenge. So then I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. And she was like, oh, okay, well, then they referred me up to the Women and Children Center up in San Jose. And when I got out of jail, my dad drove me up to San Jose, and ever since then, I had my child. Obviously, I'm not pregnant anymore. So he's a little boy. His name's Levi. He's about 3 months old, and just because of Teen Challenge and being in the Teen Challenge, my son's not going to have to go through the things that I went through as a young child. That he's never going to know a mom that was on drugs. That he's going to feel loved, he's going to feel wanted, and that, I'm going to be able to raise him right. Teen Challenge has put such a wholeness inside of me that I couldn't explain, and that just my insecurities, they're still insecurities, but they don't matter to me anymore. I don't have to hide them. I don't have to hide my flaws in order for people to accept me, because they understand that everybody has them. And I found my worth in God and not in men anymore. And it's just been a long journey, but it's definitely been a worth it journey. My mom and dad came up and saw Levi and I when he was about 2 weeks old, and just to see the restoration in my family is amazing, because they weren't happy that I got pregnant, but for my mom to tell me, you might not have a child by the end of the day because we're going to steal him, it's just amazing to me, because for him to be loved, and for him, that was the biggest fear, that my parents wouldn't accept him because I got pregnant in bad circumstances, and my mom and dad just love him to death, and I'm so happy. And it's all because I'm on the right path. And yeah.
So, as you see, I think it's amazing that there's places like Teen Challenge that can help people just restore their lives. Everybody's circumstance is different. No one has the same circumstance. Some come from good homes, some come from broken homes, some come from homes that the influence was at home. But we're just all broken, and we need a safe place sometimes to come and try to get our healing and to be productive. So that's our mission. That's what we try to do at Teen Challenge, is just give people hope, and the hope through our faith. And we just want to be productive citizens afterwards. I want to give back to the community. I would like to know if you have any questions for us. You could ask me questions. You could ask them questions.
Can you describe maybe this is an unfair question, but can you describe a typical day that you have to go through? How did that healing come about? At Teen Challenge, what happened?
I think it was a surrender. It was the fact that I chose to say I can't do this on my own, and give everything up, and to be accepting of my authority, and realizing that I can trust them, and that they do want the best for me, was a really difference in my program. That definitely helped me make that change.
So do you have counselors throughout the day?
We have counselors that come to the facility, and they talk to us about, they try to reach with us once every week, just coming, even if it's just for a quick check-in when they walk through the house when they're on their way to speak to another student. They always are very apt to seeing how we're feeling, and even if it's not our direct counselor, all the staff members are really our counselors. I mean, they all are open to hear what's going on. They're all a quick line. Just a walk over to the office, just be like, hey, there's something going on, and they all want to make sure that we're in a safe place. The biggest thing is that this is a safe environment. So if there's things that are going on that we need to talk about, there's always more than one staff member in the household that we can always pull aside and say, hey, I need to talk to you right now. And they're more than happy to just take you on a walk outside and let you just talk. And they're open to giving you an honest, just answer, unemotional, just cut it, this is what's going on. Or even just incorporate a spiritual conversation, like, let's pray about this. I hope you'll be able to get through this. It's going to be okay. They all have our backs at the end of the day, and that's something I know I never saw. I was very rebellious against authority, so having people that want to teach me how to love is something I've never experienced, and that's what made it so easy for me not to want to fight it, because they all love us so much.
And go ahead.
So you mentioned that you came to the program when you were 32 years old.
Yeah.
So can you share your story a little bit?
I can. I did a little while ago, but so I was an alcoholic. I drank since the age of 13. So from 13 to the age of 32, I just grew into this big alcohol addiction. So that's how I came to the program. The program I came into was the Family Center in San Jose. The Family Center allows a husband and wife to come in together. So me and my wife came in together, and so that's what brought me into Teen Challenge, because I like to drink a little too much. Yeah. Any other questions?
What is the program like for this?
Like in the day, like what they do in the day?
Yes.
Okay, so
The whole thing.
It's very
so
structured.
it's very structured, and there's they follow a schedule, right? The schedule is very basically a basic day wake up would be 6 o'clock.
So you live there?
They live there. Yes, I live at the Family Center, but so them, since they're still in the program, they'll do a schedule 6 a.m. is wake up, and then you guys do. I'm not at the women's center.
So
do chores.
we wake up every day at 5:50, and we have to have our bed made and be out of bed and getting into our shower if it's in the morning by 6 o'clock. Or they come in and make sure everybody's up, and that this is the time that we need to get used to. It's breaking those old habits. I know I was used to sleeping until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's the first one that's hard, and making my bed too. I was never one to make my bed, but we wake up, do our beds, and then it's getting ourselves ready. We have about roughly 30 minutes to get ready, and then by 6:30 we start doing our chores. So there's a couple of us assigned per dorm to clean our dorms, clean the bathrooms, just make sure the house is in somewhat good shape to start our day. And then after that we circle up, and we have our check-in in the morning. We read some scriptures. We pray over our food, and then we eat until about 7:10. And then we do our last set of chores, so it's cleaning up the rest of the house. That wouldn't include the bedrooms or bathrooms, more like the living areas, the dining rooms, outside, taking out the trash, cleaning the dishes, cleaning the kitchen. And then after that, we have our devotions, and then we start our day from there. And that can vary in different ways, from fundraising to doing classwork or curriculum, or going out to special events, going to having a rec day, all kinds of different things that we do during our week.
So very structured, and then lights out. They have a curfew, right? They're at 10 o'clock. They have to be in bed, and basically it's the structure of the program. The thing with the structure is that when we're out on the streets, we don't have structure. We make our own our own schedules, and in order to live a productive life, we need the structure in our lives, right? So, like she said, a lot of people don't know. Sometimes students come in, they don't know how to go to bed, and they don't know how to do that and stuff. So, and that's every day. It never changes.
So how about the meal? Do you guys need to cook your own meals, or someone?
Well, we'll provide the food. We get donations also of food, and then so like during lunchtime, the students will cook their lunch. students cook their dinner. There are times where people will come in and they'll volunteer their time and they'll make dinner for them, or they'll make lunch for them. It just depends on the situation, but usually they cook. Yeah. Or the staff members, Malika cooks for you guys too. Yeah, the staff members also cook for them, so.
So at the end of the program, you'll be able to find a job, or is this a program you will have a job, or how?
That would, for right now, I would love that we would have it structured where we would be able to have them a job ready. We don't, but that's what some of the volunteers have been coming in and helping the students with is there's some that maybe don't know how to make a resume. They've been teaching them how to make resumes. They've been, I think the other day they even did like interview process and just teaching them those types of things so that when they do leave the program, they're able to make a resume and go find work on their own. But right now the program isn't structured to where we will help them find a job when they leave. No.
We also have the reentry too.
They do have a reentry program where they can stay, they'll pay rent, and they'll stay at the facility still, and they go and find a job and they work, but they still live on site. But as to say like this team, that's a good thing but we won't help them find a job. They usually do it on their own, right? But
So
I think it would be something that would be nice if we had volunteers that would want to do that, come help them find work and stuff. That could help us.
So how long has the program been? It's, it's
60 years.
60 years.
60.
So do you have the success story that people, were in the program and at the end of 6 months they able to find a job or or things like that?
Yeah, me.
I see.
I'm one of them. I'm one of many. Yeah, right now I'm going on 7 years sober. After the program. Yeah, when I left the program, I left and I found a job right away. I got plugged into my church, and about a year afterwards, I got a really good job. Actually, it was public transportation with the state. I had a state job, and also I was about to start my own business. I had gotten a business license to do a construction company, and so yeah, I mean, and there's many more, but the success, I don't have the correct number right now, but usually it's a little bit higher than other programs, the success rate that we have, and I mean there's many that finish the program and they go on and they're very successful. I wish the number was higher, but there has been.
So you were in the program for 6 months, then
I was in the program for a year and a half.
For a year and a half.
Yes, because I did the year.
Uh-huh.
I did a year program, and then I did an internship, which is 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about the cost of the program or how the financial?
Well, that's usually why we try not to charge people as much. But if we were to charge, the cost of living would roughly be about $2,200 a month per student. Not all the students come in with that money, so that's why they do the fundraising on their own. They'll go out and they'll go to the neighborhoods, and I don't know, maybe they've knocked on some of your guys' doors, I'm not sure, but they'll come and they'll tell about the program, and we ask for donations because we are a faith-based program, so we don't get help from the government. So we the way we function is just by pure community giving. So they don't necessarily, if they don't have the money, we won't turn them away. So they could come in, basically a lot of people come in and then they don't pay anything. I paid like an initial fee of like $500 when I came into the program. And then I try to get other people, like my family members, send some types of donations, but we don't turn them away if they can't pay the whole fee. So that's why, that's a plus also that we do. Anything else?
How many people can you take in?
At Full House? Full House at the Women's Center, the 19, 20, sometimes 22, depends. Yeah, the family center, the apartments can take a little bit more, maybe. If the family center is at full capacity, it'd probably be like 30 around there.
People or
Well, yeah, people counting just heads, yeah, but it'd be like families
you
together.
don't take family, right?
The whole family, yeah.
Whole
So
family.
like when I was there, it was 5 of us. It was me, my wife, and my 3 kids. So that would have
That
been.
counts 5.
That counts 5, yeah.
So total 30
So
people.
total 30, yeah.
Yeah, the programs, actually it's free, and so they need a donation, yeah.
Yeah.
If you listen that, and then you are happy to donate today or later, yeah, very welcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, so because Team China is a non-profit organization, you can get a tax deduction.
Right, yeah. Since it is a 501c3, so if you do donate, you can use it for your taxes, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's just through the help of the community, and whether, I mean, if you could help financially, that'd be great. If you could help just your time, if you cook, if you like to cook, if you, whatever, if you,
It's like you welcome volunteer to.
yes, to come and help at the center, yeah.
Oh, really? How many facilities do you have?
In San Jose, we have just the Women and Children Center and the Family Center, but the Northwest Cal Nevada, there's 8 centers, but there's some in Las Vegas and Sacramento. So like on Tuesdays, they come and volunteer, and they help people if they need GED help or like I was saying, the resume. So it's we take all the help that we can get. It's needed, right? And I don't know, I think that the outcome is very glorious. To me it is, because when I see the students come in and I see them come in at their lowest. Like when I saw them come in, they didn't look like this, right? It was completely different, and it's hopeless is what you see on their faces, like if there's no hope. And to see them standing here today, this is just 6 months in, and to see how healthy they look and how clear-minded they are, and just the growth that they've gone through is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And you go ahead.
Okay, so what kind of counselors do you guys have?
What kind of counselors?
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 types. We have counselors that are just that are counselors that counsel. They have degrees. They're degreed counselors, and others are just like mentors. Like me, I don't have a degree, so I would be considered a mentor. Just someone that could sit down and just have a conversation with them one-on-one. I could help them. What gives me the upper hand is that I went through the program, so I could connect with them when they're going through something. The other ones, they hit they hit issues like the childhood issues. Because we get people, we get people in the program that have been through like a lot of dark stuff, like a lot of abuse, a lot of family abuse, or whether it be abuse on the streets or homelessness, or they lose their families, so they're going and they're grieving through a lot of deep stuff, right? That normal, I don't want to say normal people, but that usually people, not everybody goes through. We get counseled. They're clinically based counselors, basically. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, because when music is so good to the community, so is it possible to get the support from the government?
From the government, we can't from the government because we're faith-based. Because of the faith, so the government won't fund us, right? And so that's why it's all community. It's the nonprofit organization. Anything else?
Say if somebody come in to apply, how do you decide, do you just take wherever?
They call. We have an intake coordinator, so they'll call and then they fill out an application, and then after the application, they have a phone interview, and usually if there's room, they come right in. We try not to let them wait that long, so there's really hardly anything that will keep them from coming into the program, really. So, you got a question?
Do people usually feel like 1 year into the program is enough to like fully healed?
No, it absolutely is not. The 1 year is just, it seems, when you're in the program, it seems like the year is forever. It seems like it's the longest thing that you're ever gonna do in your life, but depending on the trauma that the person has gone through, it takes years after Teen Challenge to fully get completely healed. But at that point, so basically the Teen Challenge gives them the foundation and gives them a starting point. And after that, you know, like my wife, she had to go still after Teen Challenge 3 more years of counseling after the program just to get the healing that she needed from all the abuse that she received, because there's always still things that happen in our lives that trigger us, right? We have triggers, and that's why a lot of people, they get sober for a little bit and then they fall back because of things that just, the human body, we get triggered and we don't want to deal with things, and we just go back to, you know, the Bible says we go back to our vomit, we go back to what we kept us captive. But yeah, so no, the healing process, I think for addicts is lifelong. It's a continually thing that you have to continue to learn, and you have to continue to have the steps to take to stay sober. Because it's not only that, but we become chemically dependent, right? Our bodies, they remember so much, and so it's a lifelong thing.
I found that when I came into the program, the things that I came in feeling I needed healed, they eventually got healed, but once those things fell back, new things came up.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep finding that there's a new cycle, there's a new layer to healing, to the things that I personally had experienced. So yeah, in the beginning this year looked like it was gonna be so much time that it was gonna be pointless. But now I've hit my 6-month mark, I've come to the realization that I don't know if I wanna leave quite yet. There's a lot that I'm working through, and sometimes I feel like it's more than what I started coming in with. It's just peeling back layers. That's why I think this program, it works specifically because it's so long. That's, if it was a small, like anyone can go to a 30, 60, 90-day program and get sober, but to deal with the issues that have been stuck down in my bones for the last 19 years of my life, it takes a long time to get down between all the dirt and the muck, and to really clean all that out, it's taking a long time, but I'm doing it in a safe environment to do so, that is setting me up so that when I get out, I don't fall again.
Because we have to understand that addiction is just the top part of that's the end part of our problem, right? I don't know if any of you have ever seen the picture of there's a picture of an iceberg, right, of a mountain. And you see the water, and then all you see is the tip of the mountain, right? You just see the tip of the mountain. I would say that's our addiction. It's just the tip, right? But what's underneath the surface is what got us to our addiction. So that's what we try to, after getting sober, actually is kind of easy. It's the pain and the suffering that we go through is the hard part to get rid of. You know, when my addiction, you know, I did go, and I didn't mention it, but I'll mention it now. When I was 12, I had a cousin that killed himself, and I happened to be at the house when he did it. I was spending the night at my aunt's house, and I was 12 years old. And for a 12-year-old to see something so traumatic is I feel that's what fueled my addiction. And because that 12-year-old, I saw something that a 12-year-old should not see, right? It's not normal for a 12-year-old boy to see a person hanging in a closet, you know, so that brings trauma, right? So through that trauma, I had to deal with that trauma, and I had to deal with all that grieving in order to forgive, understand that it wasn't my fault, and just a lot of other things that I was dealing with. So that's why the restoration is longer than a year, because it's when you go through something that's not normal, it's harder. You know, it does something to the mind. It makes people go crazy sometimes. Any other questions?
What makes a big change? Because if you came from a broken family, you feel your parents not love you, it's a deep sorrow and very deeply hurt.
Right.
So what makes them change quick and big?
What
Through 6 months only.
For me, personally, for me, it was the love of Jesus. For me personally, it was knowing that my faith and surrendering. Right, I'm very stubborn and very prideful, and I had to understand that there was something bigger than me for some reason or whatever, and to understand that the love that the Bible says that Jesus had for us is a great love, right? We love casts out all fear. That love is what I took, and that love surpasses all other love for me, for my personal. So that's what did it for me. To understand that, and then I had to understand that my parents, they loved me, but at the same time they went through certain things that they didn't do it out of because they wanted to. They didn't neglect because they wanted to neglect. They didn't not raise me correctly because they didn't want to. It was just a thing of they didn't know how, right? It was just the way they were raised, and they didn't know how to do it. And they didn't say, "Oh, we're going to destroy our son." And I had to understand that. I had to come to that realization and believe that.
We study the Bible every day.
Yes. Yeah. Every day. Yeah.
I think for me it's the same, was Jesus, and also the fact that my parents never gave up. That they showed that the unconditional love that I needed. Even when I would, push them away, they still stood and kept coming after me, and coming after me, and coming after me. I've known now that they didn't send me away because they didn't want me. They sent me away because they didn't know how to. They didn't know what else to do. And it was out of love. They tried everything, and they're like, okay, this doesn't work. We're gonna try this, because they loved me so much. And now looking back on it, because I was adopted, it was a choice for them to love me. It wasn't an automatic love. Like after having a son, I'm like, there's nothing I could love ever, so much more. But an adoption is a choice for them to love me because I wasn't their child. I'm not birth related to them at all, so it's a choice in which now realizing it means a lot more to me because of how much I put them through. They woke up every single morning choosing to love me, even though I pushed them away and didn't want anything to do with them.
Anything else? How about you younger ones? Do you guys feel peer pressured, where you guys go to school and stuff with certain drugs or whatnot? I mean, I don't know. I know when I went to school, where I know like the demographics are different depending on where you go to school. Everything's going to be different. But I know that when I went to school, there was always the peer pressure of wanting to do certain things. And I would suggest to you guys, if you ever come in contact with or into a situation where you're brought in or you just meet it, it's super simple. You just say no. It's really that easy. We think it's a little harder, but it's just no. It's super simple. And that's my suggestion. I did hear a study that there's like 92 point some million people addicted in the United States, and I thought that was an outrageous number. That's a lot of people that are chemically dependent on something. And it's almost like, you know, everywhere you go, someone is doing something, whether it's taking a painkiller or you know, doing a harder drug, or you know, smoking, or you know, whatever it may be. But you know, nowadays, I think our biggest threat right now would be marijuana, because it's legalized and everybody seems like it's just like it's an okay drug to do. And you know, when I was younger, everybody was like, it's a gateway drug, right? And they would say, well, what's a gateway drug? This drug will lead to other drugs. But now, I see the signs in California and they deliver it to your house. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy, you know? But it's the times we live in, so I would suggest that you guys just be very conscious and choose your friends wisely, and listen to your parents. They do know best. You know, at that when we're younger, we think that they don't, but they do. They want the best for you, and so that's all I have. I don't have anything else. If anybody else has anything else to share or comment, I just want to thank you guys for allowing us to come and tell you our stories. Let you guys know what you know, what we're doing. And I hope you guys, if you guys want to volunteer, if you guys want more information, I could give you my phone number. I'll give you the address to the house. You guys are more than welcome to come and walk the property and just come and see the house and see the rest of the students that are there. You know, we have a benefit coming up in September where you'll hear, you could hear our choir sing, and you'll hear a few more testimonies, and you'll hear a few more things that we're doing for the center. If you guys want more information on that. For you volunteers that come every summer, I thank you guys. The students are always super blessed. They're always super, you blow our minds, man. You guys are super, you guys you guys got it up here, man. You guys are smart. You know, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see that at such a young age, you guys are so just vibrant and just the education and everything that you guys have received. It's amazing to me, and I thank you guys for wanting to come and help us and serve us. It's a true blessing. So I thank you guys. But that's all I have. Okay, thank you for having us. I would like to have, if you guys would like a book, this book it's called The Cross and the Switchblade. And this will tell you the whole story of Teen Challenge from how it got started, about David Wilkerson. It's a small book, but it just gives you, it's a nice little read if you'd like to know more about the history of Teen Challenge. And there's also a movie, but I know the movie's super old, so maybe in the 70s or something. But anyways, you guys are more than welcome to grab a book or take a few if you want to give to someone or whatever. Please feel free to do so. Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys.